been joined by Jeff Gordon, Vice Chairman of Hendrick Motorsports. I don't really feel like you really need an introduction here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. Hendrick Motorsports announced earlier this week an extension with William Byron. Just talk a little bit about that, extension for William, but also just what William means to the organization.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. I think it was a no-brainer, an easy decision on both parts. It's worked. He's been a great fit, and I feel like the team's been a great fit for him from the very beginning. And so, but at the same time, you got to make stuff happen on the track, which he has, but we've got to make it happen for him as well from the team side and get him signed up. And so that was. That was fantastic, and great timing, obviously, coming into such a special week and a home race for him and for Hendrick.
And it's a really big weekend for Hendrick Motorsports. You guys have Xfinity race today. Obviously, the Cup race.
We got a little bit going on.
A little bit going on. Cup race tomorrow, and then Kyle will be participating in the Indy 500 and the Coke 600 with the double. Just talk a little bit about. I think you're going to be very busy this weekend, most likely. But tell us a little bit about that opportunity from your vantage point.
Well, and again, it just goes back to the great team that I get to work with every day and that we have at Hendrick Motorsports, because behind the scenes, it's hectic and it's crazy. And there's a lot going on, but others have a lot more going on than I do. My role is pretty easy, but it's because of so many great people that are making it all happen with logistics and whether it's the folks at Hendrick Cars dealing with McLaren on in Amazon, and Hendrick on the marketing side dealing with Arrow McLaren on that side of things, getting ready for the race from a marketing standpoint. Inside, our organization working with Kyle's team, Arrow McLaren team on the logistics of getting all the moving parts and pieces. It's a lot, and tomorrow will be a hectic day, and there will be a lot of people that will be stress-free when it's all over. But it's also really exciting. And then, that doesn't take into account all the stuff happening on the Cup side and the Xfinity side, right? Now that we're doing that in-house this year. We've got a lot going on, and it's fun, it's exciting, it's all good things. So, but without a great team, as well as Fan Day that we had yesterday and today with our drivers and crew chiefs and personnel. So, this is as we all know, one of the greatest weekends in motorsports, if not the, and it goes much further than just what you see on Sunday or on tomorrow on that big race day. So, I can't think of a more positive weekend going into a weekend than we have right now. Kyle's in the Indy 500. I think race practice has gone well. I'm not even going to talk about weather. We'll look at that in the morning. We've got a great plan, and our four teams are operating at a high level in the Cup Series, and so I feel like we got a legitimate shot to win. I think Williams' practice went well this morning in the Xfinity car, and so we feel really good about that, and of course the announcement with him too. So I can just keep on going on
You're doing a great
going
job.
Pretty good so far.
All right, we're going to go ahead and open for questions. Obviously, we have several. So to kick us off, we're going to go to Jordan Bianchi over here.
Jordan Bianchi at The Athletic. I got a couple for you. We'll start with William. From the outside, I think you mentioned that you called it a no-brainer. It seems like this negotiation should have been straightforward. Was it as straightforward and as easy as it looks from the outside, where he wants to stay with you guys, and obviously you want to keep him?
Yeah, I would say so. Trying to put a value on drivers is challenging, because you're looking at the business model of things, and then you're also looking at where he ranks out there, and his statistics would put him up there with the top drivers, and so the expectations are him to be taken care of like a top driver. So it's always about timing, in my opinion. Timing for the team, timing for the driver. It never hurts coming off of being, in the top four in Phoenix, as well as winning your second Daytona 500 championship, race. So I think we're we were going to make it happen one way or another, and so you still got to go through the paces, but the desire to be there and not look anywhere else was very clear and evident from the very beginning.
I know you said you didn't want to talk about it, but how many times have you actually looked at the weather forecast? Because you go back a year ago, and it was about this time when the weather forecast flipped, and it got really ugly up there.
Yeah, last year it's just slightly different, and I say that because we were going into it with, this is probably the one and only time that we're going to do this. This is Kyle's first time. This is Rick Hendrick's first time, and so it was not as easy and clear cut of a decision as to when we leave Indianapolis. That's not the case this time. So this time, he'll be here for, our goal is driver introductions, which I think is 5:25. That is our goal. If I got the time wrong, I apologize. Too many things in my head this week. But that is the goal, to make sure. And listen, it's a tight window, regardless. Wouldn't mind, seeing if Indianapolis like to, start a little earlier and Charlotte start a little later. But so it's a very tight window. But we have a concrete plan in place, and so looking at weather, other than just wanting it to go smooth and wanting it to be a full race and a great day and start the day off right. Other than that, I'm trying not to pay too much attention to the weather until maybe tomorrow morning.
All right, we'll come up front to Dustin Long here.
I'm going up after qualifying here tonight, and I'll go up, and then I'll come back as soon as the race is over tomorrow, and I'll be here for the start of the 600. So, yes. He is going to be here for driver introductions at 5:25. That's the call, right? The call is, we know exactly how to back it up from there, what time he has to be, leaving, taking off from Indianapolis to get here. That's all it matters. At this point, we can't predict red flags, caution flags, anything else other than that time. And that's what's different from this year from last year. Last year, as the rain started coming and the delays started coming, it started being a factor of, okay, how do you take this opportunity from Kyle Larson and the team? Everybody's worked so hard for their one and only shot at racing in the Indy 500, especially now that the track's starting to dry and it's starting to clear up. And we kind of took into account at that point, yes, he's going to miss the start of the 600, but we still had the plan to get him here and get him in the car and finish the race. And that's what bit us, really, was that on both sides. That's just not the case this year.
Still a lot, but as you move beyond tomorrow, what will be considerations that will go into whether this is worth doing again, whether next year or some other time in the future?
I'd be just fine if Kyle Larson wants to win the Indy 500. So, and I'm probably speaking on behalf of Rick Hendrick. Yeah, that would be awesome. So we can say we did it and it's been amazing. And Kyle, if you want to do the Indy 500 in the future, be our guest. But it's a lot. It takes a huge commitment. We're proud to be a part of it. It's been great for Hendrick Cars. I think ultimately it was between Hendrick Cars and Rick Hendrick that made the decision to want to do it again. Certainly doesn't hurt that we're also, doing a documentary, and the documentary was not complete. But I feel like from our perspective, it's going to be complete this time.
All right, I'm going to try to fit in a few more here. We're going to go to Mike Hembry, and then can I get a mic in the back to Ben White, please?
Mike Hembry, Auto Week. Jeff, you've been heavily involved with Kyle's attempt at this double for 2 years. If the right levers had been pulled back in the day, you could have done this potentially. Having seen it happen now, is that something you would even wanted to attempt back when you were driving?
You know, I thought about it a little bit because I've been asked, and you know, this is the closest I've come to this, right? This experience and what it is like, and maybe what it would have been like had I, you know, attempted it. But I'm just, and I just don't think there are many Kyle Larsons. You know, I was always the type of driver where I was very laser focused on one, you know, team, one car, one kind of goal, and you know, it's just the way that my mindset and my efforts were. There's a reason why I didn't go back and forth and run sprint cars and midgets and other types of cars. And it just wasn't the thing that I did throughout my career, other than when I was trying to make it into NASCAR. You know, I wanted to complete the USAC championship and some of those efforts. But once I got here, to me, it was just all about this. And partly is because I didn't think that I was as good at jumping in and out of cars. Some guys are, you know, just jumping from one team or one car to the next, or even maybe getting the opportunity to get a quality enough car to do that. You know, Mark Martin comes to mind. He's a guy that I feel like he could jump in any kind of car, anybody else's car, and go fast right away. For me, it like took time for me to learn the car, learn the team, communicate with them, and that took time. So like, for instance, when I did the Rolex 24, you know, I did it in like 04 or something like that. I can't remember the first time. And I said, I'm never doing it again until I'm able to fully commit to it the way I want to commit to it. And that's when I did it after I retired. So I admire the heck out of Kyle for what he's capable of doing. And he does it on such a regular basis that this doesn't seem that abnormal for him. Where for me not doing it, I think it would have been super stressful. And I don't know that I would have been as successful at it as he's been. So to me, it never really was. The only time it ever really came almost a reality is the 100th anniversary. You know, Indianapolis Motor Speedway management at that time was pushing really hard to get as many drivers from as many different series to compete in that race. And you know, even then, I didn't put a whole lot of consideration into it, just because it just didn't seem right for me.
All right, Ben, go ahead.
The track and legacy there is 5 times. Just what?
Well, I mean, what I didn't get to say, you know, was the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is you know, for me, like the Holy Grail. You know, and it's because of my upbringing in racing, the type of introduction that, you know, like I was introduced to quarter midget racing, dirt track racing, and the Indy 500. Like that was how my, you know, kind of interest level and my heroes were guys racing the Indy 500. I got a chance to go to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in probably like 1980, 81, something like that. And I was just in awe of that place. Then, you know, moving to Indiana, what was it, like 86, 87, something like that. You know, like it just became even more of a goal of mine to want to race there and compete there. And I wanted to race there in the Indy 500. I really did. But you know, the opportunity wasn't there, and I go south, and to me it was all about NASCAR at that point, not anything about IndyCar. No knock on IndyCar. It's just, you know, here's the opportunity, and NASCAR's growing and just expanding and popular. And next thing I know, they're announcing the Brickyard. And that, to me, is when all the stars aligned for me, was to get to race for Rick Hendrick, Ray Evernham, a very competitive race car, and at the track that meant the most to me. And then to win it was just like mind-blowing on top of that. So, yeah, you know, to me, once I won a Brickyard 400, kind of the Indy 500 didn't seem to be as important to me, because I didn't realistically think I could win the Indy 500, but I could win more Brickyards.
All right, if I can get a microphone right here in the middle to Zach.
Zach Sterniolo, NASCAR.com. Going back to the processes of this weekend, now that we actually are on race weekend, 24 hours from the green flag at Indy, how much smoother have the processes been this year because there are less question marks and more answers already in the notebook after last year's endeavor?
Yeah, I mean, because so many unknowns year one for Arrow McLaren and for Hendrick and for Kyle and for our partners, like it just there was just so much for us to learn, and because we learned a lot, then we feel like, all right, we should be able to do it better. And I feel like it's been much smoother. I know, practice prior to qualifying didn't go quite as well from Kyle's perspective, but otherwise I think everything has been it's been much smoother and easier just because of what we already know based on what we did last year.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much for making
Yeah,
time to
thank
come in
you
here
guys.
today. We really appreciate it. Best of luck to you guys this weekend.
Appreciate it.
In all the races, and especially tomorrow.